Welcome to reading lesson 73. We left off yesterday reading chapter 9 in our current reader of Pilgrim Boy. We didn't quite finish the chapter, so I want you to pause your video and get your reading book if you haven't gotten it already, and then find page 58. And then I want you to read to yourself pages 58 all the way to 61. That will complete chapter 9. Then I want you to unpause the video and we're going to read chapter 10 together. Happy reading. Now that you have read chapter 9, let's read chapter 10 together. Let me introduce the chapter before we begin reading. Some words to watch for in this chapter that we're going to read is dismay, wistfully, column, and canon. The character theme in this chapter is hard work and resourcefulness. Now, even though the pilgrims had reached their new home, the hard work was just beginning. How long do you think it will be before the pilgrims can finally leave the Mayflower? Well, let's read chapter 10, Getting Things Ready, and find out what happens in the chapter. The way we're going to read together today is I'm going to read one sentence, you're going to read the next sentence, and then we'll go back and forth until chapter 10 is done. Are you ready? Chapter 10, Getting Things Ready. The scouts went out again. When they returned, they told of being attacked by Indians. Edward could hardly wait to get off the ship and onto solid ground. To his dismay, he learned that only the men would go ashore to build the shelters. The work began in December. Edward and his friends watched from the ship. They chose Edward, Love, and John Billington. The wind was cold and made their wet clothes feel like sheets of ice. With teeth chattering, he began to help. Others cut down trees and sawed them into lumber. Edward and the other boys helped carry pieces of lumber. The exercise warmed them up a bit, but as soon as they stood still, they began to shiver in their wet clothes. "What is that?" he asked the man he was helping. He frowned. Edward shivered, and this time it was not from his wet clothes. He had to stay behind on the Mayflower while his friends left for shore in the longboat. "I carried lumber from the woods for the common house." "Cannon?" asked Wrestling. Edward nodded. "I saw the smoke from their campfires when I was on shore." He felt strong and grown up. He did not tell the children that he was glad he could meanwhile stay on the Mayflower out of the cold and rain and far enough away from the Indians to be safe. Great job reading with me today. Now, I want you to look on Google Classroom for a question that I will ask about chapter 10. Happy study.